All right, let's move on here and do some other kinds of queries now. If you don't have that done, it's the rest of the stuff that you have to do for today doesn't depend on that, so it's not a big thing. You can go back and finish it whenever you want to. All right. Close that query. All the queries I've done up to this point have involved just one table. And now I want to add a second table, which adds a little bit of complexity to it. And we'll work through that so you understand what's going on. So let's just say I want a table of kids who live in New York that we can call. All right. Kids in New York that we can call. Well, that information is split amongst two tables, right? The can call, the New York, the phone number is in the household table, and then any information we have about the kids is in the kids table. So, but it works the same way. You understand the question, you pick the tables, you link the tables, is the new step, then you pick the fields you want, then you pick the records that you want, and then you do any sort of dressing up formatting before you create the table. All right, in the design. Kids born in New York that we can call. All right, so as I said before, we need the household table and we need the kids table. Okay, now because these are related, there's already a link between these tables. Okay. And then you just pick the fields that you want. I'm going to want household ID number, state, phone number, can call, and then child ID, child date of birth, all right. So I just pick the fields I want. So I pick the tables, then I pick the fields, and then I apply whatever criteria is important here. So let's see. I said New York, right? New York. So we put New York here. NY. And it makes no sense to put a record in this table if they don't have a phone number, so we check to see if they're null or not. So we do that is not null thing again. And yes, we can call them, and so on. So you go ahead and just apply the application of criteria is exactly the same as before. And then if we need to do any formatting or sorting or rearranging the columns, we could do all that sort of stuff, but then we just run the thing. Okay. And that's how you do a multi-table query. Okay. All right. This is called an inner join, and what that means is that for a record to appear in the answer table, it has to have information in both of those tables. So if there's a record that HHID that's in the household and in the kids table, it gets to be part of the output table. But we've got a bunch of records of households that have no kids. Since the information only coming from one side of that join, they don't end up in the output table. Okay. If you're comfortable with set theory, we would say that's the intersection of those two sets. All right. Anyway, however you want to think of it, they have to come from both. Now, in addition, let's see, let me go back to this again now for a second. Let's see, where's a good table? Where's one with a lot of kids in it? Here's one. 3579 has a whole bunch of kids in it. Really? Oh, well, let's do this. Okay, I simplified how this thing works because it's way more complicated than that, but logically it works exactly the way I've been explaining it all along. But one weird thing that will happen is that there's no guarantee about how the output records are going to show up unless you take control of it yourself, and so there'll be almost a random thing here. So let me just sort these. Really? I guess a problem. Anyway, I'll worry about that later. Anyway, look, here's what's happening. This household here, 3579, has 4 kids in the household. We have remember, we have a one-to-many relationship between the household and the kids table. Every household can have one-to-many kids in it. Okay. So when it builds this big table, and then it keeps the columns it wants, and it keeps the records that it wants, and so on and so forth. It needs to have all the information filled in. So on the kids side, it'll take this kid stuff and put it here, and then it'll put the adult information here. And then there's another kid in that household right here, and it repeats the household information. So it duplicates the household stuff and fills the thing in. So when we're all done here, we should have the same number of records as we do kids in New York, because it's going to produce one record for each child, and it'll fill in the household side when there's more than one kid in each household. Okay. Let's see. I've got another one here. Maybe this will make it a little bit clearer for you, right? Where is it? Right here. Right. Okay. All right. So we do that. We'll do some criteria here. Close this one. Okay, just this one, right? It's just got 3 records in it, this stuff. Now, one thing you have to be careful of when you're doing these kind of queries. Okay. Read the question, pick the tables, think about the link, pick the fields, pick the records, right? There's no link between these 2 tables. There's nothing between these 2. Okay? Which means when it comes time for it to do its thing, it's going to take the first record from the household table and match it with all the records in the lab demo table. So there was 3 records in that table. It's going to produce 3 records for the first household. And then it's going to produce, for the second household, will produce another 3 records, something like that. So if I run this thing, I'm going to end up with 3 times as many records as in the household table. Okay. Now, I'll tell you this because you want to be careful, because some of the queries that you're going to write, it's not automatically going to put a link between them. And if you happen to do 2 big tables, then it's going to run, and it'll end up trying to produce millions of records, and there's really no way for us to stop it until it's done. Because it just really grabs control of your machine, and it just chugs and chugs and chugs and chugs and chugs. So when you run these queries, think about a second. Do I really want no link between it? Now, I'm going to show you a couple of examples here this morning where I don't want a link, but think about it before you do this, all right? So I'll just run this, and you can see, oh, how about a destination field? Okay. It looks like that, and now I've got 15,000 records. Okay, let's see again. So what I was saying before, here's household 1, and it shows up 3 times, and household 2 has 3, and stuff like that, all right? So it's critical you pay attention to the join property. Okay, just do a couple of other examples here. All right, so my next question that I want, the next table I want to produce, says I want adults with 12 plus years of education but no high-speed internet. Okay. Adults with more than 12 years of education with no high-speed internet. So again, I need the adult table and I need the household table. So we can go in here, households, adults. It does have the link between the 2, so that's taken care of. So then I can just pick what I need from the household side. All I need is high-speed internet, and then over here I can identify which adult I'm talking about, and we wanted people with a particular education. I said more than 12, so we just do greater than 12. Okay. And there's my list of people. Oops, no it's not, because I forgot to say yes for high-speed internet. Try that one. Okay. So there's my list of adults who higher education, well-educated, no high-speed internet. All right. Now then, when you get into these multi-table queries, you have to pay particular attention to the question and understand what it's asking for. Here, I'm asking for a list of adults highly educated adults who have no internet connection. If I were to ask a similar question, give me a list of households that have highly educated adults and no internet, I'm going to have to do it slightly different, right? Because see what's happening. If I say I want a list of households instead of I want a list of adults, then I'm going to have a bunch right here. I'm double count. I've got 2 instances of this household here. I've got another 2 here. So basically, any household where I've got 2 people with a lot of education, I'm going to have a duplication. So when you read the question, think about it for a second. Say, well, are we concerned about the one side or the many side? When I say I want adults, that means I'm more interested in the stuff that comes from the mini table. And if I say the household, which is the one side, then that's the thing I want to do. All right? So this gets me adults. Now to get households, you do it something like this. We'll just tell it to do an aggregate query here. And we want to group by household ID, right? Because we want to, the kind of query we want to do here involves multiple records, and that usually means we want to do a totals query, as Access would call it. And so we're going to tell it to group by that. High-speed internet, that's just a criteria selection, so we would change that to where. And we can count up the number of adults. We need a count to make this thing work, so we'll change that to that. And again, education is just for selection purposes, so we change that to a where. And this produces a list of households that have 1 or more adults living in it who have more than 12 years of education, and they have no high-speed internet. Does that make sense? Between the distinction between those two? The other query was I'm looking for a list of adults, and in this one I'm looking for a list of households. So we can do that sort of stuff. Okay. And then. All right. So no questions here? Okay. Your turn. Go on to practice 2 and answer those questions, then we'll do more queries.